Welcome to the Thrive Co podcast, exploring the inner side of success. I am your host, Nikki, and each week we will explore the mindset shifts, personal growth, and everyday tools that will help you to navigate ambition, manage stress, and build a life that actually feels good on the inside. Through solo episodes and honest guest conversations, we look at what it really takes to grow, change, and thrive in the modern world. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Thrive Co podcast. Hello, I hope you're all good. I don't know what that hello was. It's so hard starting a podcast, guys. Like, you either sound super cheesy and corny or miserable. Like, I've tried to record other opening lines, just saying like, "Hey guys," which makes me sound like an American YouTuber, or yeah, just miserable. If I don't sound very upbeat, I sound really miserable. So we're sticking with it. We are sticking with it, and I think after 80 odd episodes now, then it's probably just not going to go anywhere. But I hope you're all good. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. The sun is finally shining in the UK. I say in the UK, as this comes out, I actually will be in Rome. So my husband and I went to Rome on Friday, if you're listening to this in real time, on Sunday the 26th, I think. We wanted a little city break. We were going to go to New York originally, but unfortunately with everything that's going on in the world at the moment and with the peace talks finishing this week, we weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure. We just didn't feel 100% safe. And I thought, if I'm going to go and explore an amazing new city like New York, I want it to be something that I'm so excited about and not worried or slightly anxious about, rightly or wrongly. So that was our choice. I have been to Rome before. My husband hasn't. So yeah, I'll fill you in next week. But I'm hoping that we'll have had a really lovely time. And to be honest, I'm such a fan of a city break. For me, sometimes it's actually more refreshing and resetting than having like a bigger holiday, because we do a lot more exploring. We do a lot more discovering of new stuff. And as I've said in previous podcast episodes, the science of that is that when you are creating new neural pathways, so doing things that you've not done before, learning how to navigate a place, eating in new places, having new experiences, time actually goes, well, it doesn't physically go slow, but it feels like it goes slower because you are creating new neural pathways and it's not just the same old. So you'll tend to find if you like start a new job or start seeing someone new or take up a new hobby or move to a new city, that actually you will feel like time is elongated. You feel like your days are longer because you're actively having to create new neural pathways to get to know the person or the city or learn the things. So yeah, I always love going away for city breaks and obviously connecting with my husband and just having a breakaway in the sunshine. So I'll fill you in on that next week. One thing I wanted to just quickly talk about before we head into the main topic of today's episode is I was booked in last week for a massage last Saturday. It was something that I really felt like I basically needed to do. My body has been screaming at me for a while that I've got energy and emotion stuck and I needed it working through, and there's all these movement and somatic exercises that you can do, but I just was craving a massage. It was aching. I've been exercising more and perimenopause is hitting. So for any of my gals in their 40s out there, you will relate. So anyway, I put this massage in and was really looking forward to it. She was just round the corner. I could literally walk there. It was really reasonably priced. It wasn't like a salon. It was just a private, independent kind of beauty therapist, which I love supporting. I would much rather support somebody who's an independent business than go to like a big spa. So anyway, booked it in, and then I got a text on Saturday morning saying, I'm so sorry, I'm not well. So not only do I not want to give you my illness, but I also wouldn't be able to, be at my best. So totally appreciated that. Was obviously very, sorry and empathetic, but also really disappointed because I was really, really looking forward to it. And not just looking forward to it, but felt like I really needed it. So anyway, we spent, and I say we because my husband helped me because he could see how disappointed I was, but we spent some time looking for another masseuse. And unfortunately, everyone that we contacted was either busy, didn't have any appointments, or it was like the same price for half an hour that I was going to be paying her for the full hour. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to lie down on the bed, and if it's half an hour, it's going to be over before it's begun, sort of thing. And I knew I needed like a really, really good, deep massage. So anyway, last resort, I'd messaged my friend Abby, who we've had on the podcast before. She did hypnotherapy and EMDR and Reiki on me. And she's amazing, and she's really well connected in, the healing space. So I just messaged her and said, don't suppose you know anybody who does massage. Anyway, she dropped me a couple of people over, and the last person whose name she shared and profile she shared was somebody who owns a spiritual healing space in a village called Ossett, which is about 25 minutes from me in Wakefield. So anyway, I messaged her and she came back and was like, yeah, I've got some space this afternoon. I can do you a Swedish massage. Why don't you come along at 2 p.m? So I was absolutely overjoyed. And do you know what the funny thing was? When I got there, I walked up the stairs, and because it wasn't just a beauty room or a beauty therapist, and absolutely no shade to beauty therapists, I'm sure they do incredible massages, but this was a really all-encompassing whole body experience. Like, it felt so incredible. Just walking up the stairs, there was like little lights everywhere. She had like really soothing music on. There was a workshop space where they obviously did like yoga and somatic work, and you could hire it out. And then there was the therapy room, which had got like a heated blanket and all the like twinkly lights, and it just felt like that was where I was meant to be. And I was like, isn't it funny that after the event you can see why the first thing didn't work out? And now I know why the first lady cancelled on me, because that experience probably would have been physically really great, but actually that whole energetic kind of emotional and mind body experience that I ended up having was so much more what I needed on that day at that time. So yeah, she was incredible. She did aromatherapy oils. She did a full Swedish massage for the full hour, which I find you very rarely get. It's normally like 45 minutes, and the 15-minute buffer is for like chatting and going through your form and getting dressed and undressed. So yeah, if anybody is in Yorkshire or Wakefield way, I said that like Wakefield's not part of Yorkshire, I meant South Leeds or Wakefield way. She is incredible. Her name's Anna Brown. She owns the Moss and Moon Wellbeing Studio, and she does things like tarot, Reiki, crystal healing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. So shout out to Anna, and I'll pop her details in the show notes. This wasn't to promote her. It was just really to say how it reminded me that when something doesn't work out, it's normally for a reason. So that was amazing. And then I undid all her hard work on Sunday by doing the lawn. And when I say doing the lawn, I mean mowing, scarifying, reseeding, fertilising, the whole works. It was like I did 15,000 steps just around my own garden in one day, and felt like an old lady on Monday, but needs must, and I enjoyed learning about the process. But yeah, I wouldn't be in a rush to do that by hand myself anytime soon. So today I wanted to talk about something that I posted about on social media this week, and it triggered a few people. I'm not going to lie, it triggered a few people. And I get why, but also I'm always of the mindset that if something triggers you, certainly if something triggers me, I will want to explore that. I'm at a point in my self-development journey where I can go, okay, that's interesting. What is it about that I got so defensive about? Because getting triggered is normally, an emotional response. And in this case, it was a lot of defensive people giving me all their excuses and reasons why and logic, which is fine. But also, actually, if you really look beneath the surface, there's normally something more at play. And in this case, it was a lack of self-trust, a self-doubt, a lot of, I guess, insecurities around ability to make decisions, maybe a little bit of jealousy at other people's lifestyles. So, sorry, this is very cryptic, isn't it? I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So I posted a reel. I actually did it as a TikTok initially, and then I converted it into an Instagram reel because it got a good response, and I thought that it was probably worth sharing, saying, whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. And what that in essence means is, if there's something in your life that you are consistently moaning about, complaining about, you are not happy with, and you're not doing anything to change it, then it's a choice. It's a choice that you're making. And look, I am not saying, and I did say this in the video, but I think this is the main thing that triggered people. I am not sat here saying that if you don't like the UK, you should move to Australia and that should be an easy decision and you should do it tomorrow. I'm not saying that. However, for those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. Everything in life is a choice. Everything from where we live to our partner, the work that we do, the people we surround ourselves with, our friends, whether or not we have children, whether or not we have pets, everything, our health, our fitness, it's all a choice. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a little bit like when Molly May said that we've all got the same 24 hours quote. I'm not saying there aren't nuances to this. And yes, if you're looking after a severely disabled child, that is not a choice, and I get that. If you are tied to living somewhere because of, I don't know, something that you can't help, like you're in a war zone and you physically can't get out, that is not a choice. I'm asking you to have some logical, common sense thinking around this. But the majority of people listening to this, in the majority of cases, are in situations because that is the choices that they've made in their life that have got them there. I'm not saying that you are choosing to be unhealthy, but you've chosen not to do the exercise and make the healthy choices day to day, and that's where you've ended up. If you're with a negative or toxic partner, you didn't choose that for yourself, but by not making the change to leave them or to have the hard conversations or to do the therapy, you're choosing to stay in that situation. And this is the part I think that people really struggle with. And I did an episode a while back about radical responsibility, and it had a huge uptick in terms of listens versus some of the other episodes that I released around the same time. And I think it's because people are really interested by the idea of radical responsibility. But generally speaking, a lot of the time, the response that I will get is, yes, but, or, well, it's okay for you, but, or, well, I can't do that because. And it's perfectly natural as a human that if something triggers you, you are going to get defensive. You are going to try and find all the excuses and all the logical reasoning as to why you are the exception to the rule. But actually, we can't lie to ourselves, can we? And there's been times in my life where I have 100% been a victim of my own decision making and chosen to stay in a situation that I could have gotten out of long before I chose to. And I haven't, because it's been hard. And making the decision to change your situation is normally way harder than staying in that situation. However, it's harder for a very short period of time whilst you're making the change or transition. And then longer term, you reap the benefits and the happiness and the contentness and the calmness that that new situation brings. So I'll give you an example. Well, I'll give you a couple of examples, actually. When I was with an ex-partner of mine, he was a very emotionally manipulative, controlling individual. And those are not phrases that I use lightly. You know, he wasn't just a bit mean. This was psychological abuse on the daily, to the point that I hid it from my friends and family. I lied about it. He became physically abusive later down the line. But the point that I knew that this was a toxic situation, it hadn't turned physical at that point. And yet I stayed. And the reason that I stayed is because not only had I convinced myself that it would change, but he'd moved in with me. He'd moved in with me really quickly. And to get him to move out and to change all of that situation, so for me to be paying all the bills on my own again and to actually have the conversation in the first place and to admit to all my friends and family that this was really not a good situation. There was so many things that I would have had to face up to and owned and done that it was way easier to stay in that toxic situation and eventually just complain about it to the people around me. Now, by the time I'd spoken to people around me, I still wasn't honest about the full situation and what was going on behind closed doors. But some of those people ended up saying to me, you know, this really needs to change. This is not a situation that you can continue in because it's not good. Like, it's really not good. And yet I stayed, and we were together for 18 months. So this was not something that just went on a little while longer, a few weeks longer than it should have done. It was a very, very disruptive, destructive, toxic situation that actually led to me being very physically ill as well. And then there's been situations in my life where I've been in jobs that I have absolutely hated, that they have ground me down. I've had the Sunday scaries. I've felt anxious. I've not wanted to go. I felt, really, really overwhelmed. The environment wasn't good. And yet all I did was whinge to the people around me about it. And every time they would say, well, why don't you go and look for something else? Oh, yeah, but I'm due this commission. And, it was like a vicious circle, because the commission that I was due in like 2 or 3 months. And by the time that came and that was paid, the next lot of commission would be due in 2 or 3 months. So it was a cycle. And for me, it was easier for me to stay and whinge and complain than it was for me to break that and actually go and find, something else. And so no one's immune to this. Like, it's way easier to stay in your comfort zone and to stay stuck sometimes than it is to take the leap and to make that decision. And actually, there's a phrase that I remember really striking a chord with me that Paul McKenna said in one of his books, The Power of Manifesting. And he said, people ask me, or Power Manifesting it might be actually. He said, people ask me how long it takes to make a change or break a habit. And let's be honest, most of these things are habits. You know, it's a habit that you're used to. It's your comfort zone that you're staying in. And he said, the answer is seconds. Making the decision is the hard part, but once you've made it, everything changes. And how true is that? Like, once you've made a decision to change jobs or move cities or to break off that toxic friendship or break up with your partner, the switch that flicks in your head that then allows everything to fall into place. And, you know, it's still not always easy, but it's simple then. And everything that falls into place after that is almost like divine timing. Like, you will quickly realize that it was never as hard as you were making it out in your head. And then the happiness that follows and the relief that can follow that decision, even when it's not fully sort of played out yet, is massive. And yet time and time again, we will still sit in our comfort zone and still fail to make the decision and still go down that path of comfort versus actually, you know, taking the leap and making the decision to change your circumstances. So if there's something in your life, and I'd say 99.9% of people that I work with and speak to, there are things in their life that they are not willing to take the leap on yet, that they are talking about, complaining about, whinging about, you know, mulling over, consistently thinking about, almost waiting for somebody else to say to them that that's the change that needs to be made. And yet there's never going to be a right time. If you're already complaining about something, the choice is there for you to change it, and you just have to make that decision. It's not easy, but it will be worth it. And so for me at the moment, this is playing out very much in my business. So it's very much a choice at the moment that I am not fully launching coaching programs or group workshops. And I'm putting it off until I've finished studying. I don't need to be fully qualified to do that. I could start teaching people on, you know, the things that I already know about, the journey that I've been on, helping people get to where I've come from to where I am now. I don't need any more skills to do that because I've been there and done that journey. And yet, and that is the route that I want to take. You know, I'm very much focused on that being my full-time career, and teaching about manifestation and teaching about self-development and identity and how the nervous system plays into all of that. And yet I'm still telling myself I need to be qualified in the nervous system practice, or I need to be, you know, I've done all these hours of practice coaching. And actually it's a choice that I'm making to not just launch into it. So it's very real for me right now. So I'm not sat here in my ivory tower saying I've got it all figured out. Not at all. Like, I am human, but I've definitely seen this show up in my life many, many, many times before. I'm definitely seeing it show up in the lives of people around me at the moment, because I am sometimes the person that they will complain to about the same things. And I think certainly at the moment in the UK, there is a collective noise around, you know, how crap the country is, crap the government is, how people think the country's going to shit. And yet the amount of people that are actually doing something about that and leaving is tiny. You know, they're all willing to moan about it, but not willing to do anything about it. And it might be the case that your family's here, or your kids are in school, or you've got a business here, but that's still a choice. You know, if you're really honest with yourself, it's still a choice to stay. You have the choice to move. You have the ability to move. It's a choice because of all those factors that you don't want to. And that's fine. But just remember, the things that you are not changing, you are choosing. So what is it in your life that you are choosing? And are there things that actually you really should be changing? So I hope that has resonated or helped. Have an amazing week, and I will see you again next time. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you are following the podcast and don't forget to share episodes with a friend who may need it.